cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right for all I know. It's only matter. It's calico. It's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go. It's only right for all I know. It's only matter. It's calico. It's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
Hello everybody, welcome to Simracersworld TV for rounds 13 and 14 of the SRW BMW Trophy. First time visit in Long Beach, California. Many a rap fan will find this place a legendary place indeed. And so, for enthusiasts of motorsports, this is a legendary venue finally here after years and years as a so-called tech track, a non-finished track in the world of iRacing. It is here, and we're here with the BMW M4 GT3 prototypes, and I'm here in the booth with Markus Gjesdal yet again tonight. It's going to be a joy. It's going to be a big one indeed, and quite an attritional one, I call. Markus, what's your take on this one, mate?
Lovely day today in the south of California here at Long Beach, a track which I've been really looking forward to in this championship. I'm not sure what we can expect here with the short driver count that we're seeing so far, with only 14 registered drivers and now another driver missing. So we're looking at 13 drivers for this race on this legendary venue, as you stated. Plays for Formula One racing back in the early 70s or late 70s, as well as IndyCar for the most modern future, or past, if you can say it like that. And for the motorsport fans that preferably don't think that much about lap times, Formula Drift is also a very successful venue in this case. But now we're qualifying in the SRW BMW series.
We are indeed, and it's Oscar Wilkins provisionally on pole, but just by half a tenth ahead of Chris Warner. Michael Pedersen comfortably in there as well. They're all very, very close. Sam Baxter fourth, as you can see, Bud Boland provisionally in fifth at least. Then Seb Hebra, a bronze driver, that's James Hall, in seventh place in front of all the silver drivers, at least for the time being. That could, of course, all change here within the final, 7 and a bit minutes in qualifying. And Oscar Wilkins, if he grabs pole position here, it'll be his first grab at pole this season, and what a place to do it. I think it's going to be an interesting one. Attritional, we call it, but we've never seen a race here in iRacing. We've seen racing, though, here in real life. We know how it can be. This final corner, very, very hard. And if you've ever driven here around in any sim, I've done so in Project Cars 2 in days of old, I was about to say. I know all too well just how hard it is to get anything around that corner. Absolutely horrible indeed. It makes for great racing. And if you get accidents there, as we've seen in IMSA in recent years as well, that can completely clog up the racetrack, so no one can actually get by. It's going to be something different here at Long Beach, and it's certainly going to be spectacular. It's certainly going to be worth watching, or at least so I am sure, and I hope I'll be confirmed on my expectations tonight here. Oscar Wilkins, as we said, still leading. Michael Pedersen, who leads the championship. And speaking of the championship here, Markus, let me just quickly go through the top end of the gold standings at least, and we'll gradually work our way down as well. I think we'll have enough time to touch on all classes, as a matter of fact. But Michael Pedersen, what a late great run it's been from the Dane in this series. He's built up a lead of almost 100 points in the championship standings, and mind you, we've got the 2 rounds of racing tonight. We've got 2 rounds of racing as well at Catalonia coming up in 2 weeks' time. That is, of course, the season finale. Michael Pedersen in a very good position here, 660 points to his name so far. Chris Warner second, 581. He has gathered to himself to this point, and Sam Baxter in third place with 568. Greg Franks fourth with 524. And Oscar Wilkins fifth at the moment, 517 points. Just glancing down there, leading silver driver at the moment is Paul Gosling, who is present tonight, and I think that'll be very useful indeed for him. He's got a handy 50-point advantage over Nils Manchanten, who I'm afraid is out with a shoulder injury tonight.
No.
So.
Oh wait, no, hold on. Sorry, I read the wrong name here.
Yeah, so, anyway, swiftest of recoveries to Nils, and let's hope he gets back in the action for the final race in 2 weeks, not knowing the extent of his shoulder injury or anything that be said. The bronze class, leading bronze driver, is James Hall, who's also leading bronze on the grid here. Is actually leading everything but gold. He's ahead of all the silver drivers still at this point, just over a tenth up on Jeremy de Boer. And James Hall has got a handy advantage, because looking down the standings, there's a big gap indeed down to Dirk Reske of almost 100 points. So he's looking to actually be able to seal the bronze championship, maybe even tonight. We'll have to see on that. Anyways, coming in to the final 4 minutes of qualifying here, Markus, this is coming towards the spicy end, if you will.
Yeah, 2 penultimate rounds now left in this championship until we finish it off the 28th of April. 2 weeks time, as you stated earlier, and we have the big guns in this race right now. Michael Pedersen and Chris Warner, Oscar Wilkins on provisional pole, who needs a pretty big rebound after 2 weeks ago at the Hockenheim race. I think we could say it was a dismal Wednesday for him 2 weeks ago. So seeing this fight between the 75 and the 7, I think that's going to be extremely fun. Both of them are not the fastest on track, but they are not off pace as well. We hear some crashing in the background here. We can see how challenging this track is for maybe a few of the bronze and silver drivers who haven't been on iRacing for too long.
And for everyone as well, and especially the moment you really start, because one thing is going around here, but having to go around here on the limit, I think it is very difficult indeed. And you'll find yourself looking at some very slim margins in terms of distance towards the wall, and you'll have the wall right next to you basically every time you enter or exit a corner here. And that, of course, does mean that the slightest mistakes often will get punished here. And it's one of those tracks where I could say if you're not comfortable pushing all the way to the limit, it would probably be a wise decision to back off ever so slightly here as Chris Warner comes in to the final corner. And we go on board with him for a flying lap of Long Beach indeed. The start-finish straight, which is not really a straight, because there's this long right-hander, flat indeed, of course, basically in every car. Maybe not in road cars. I'm actually not quite sure about that. But let's leave that be. 90 degrees left-hander coming in, and the drivers, of course, can't take too much on the right-hand side because that is the pit exit coming in to the legendary fountain here. A sort of a roundabout where you go around, and another 90-degree right here. Another right-hander coming up, but watch the camber here. Very tricky indeed. It makes the car want to go wide and towards the wall here. Another 90-degree bend, more or less. So would you believe it? Another left-hander here, this time coming downhill, and thus just a little bit more difficult slowing the car down. This section tricky indeed. As you can see, Chris Warner getting it, touching the soft barrier, getting it wrong, and just as you can see there, when you're tracking, oh yeah, indeed, gentlemanly decision. But you can see it there as the lap is aborted. But Chris Warner even finding it difficult here, and you know, this is the cream of the crop here. Michael Pedersen, he'll be looking to put in a good lap, maybe to put himself on the front row, which I think he would love. Markus, you spoke about this, the very, very early entrance to the final corner, and Michael Pedersen's line there is a perfect example of just that.
Yeah, you need to go late on the entrance here, try to get a late apex, try not to get too shallow on the exit and hit the wall on the outside. And we'll probably see a lot of drivers do that mistake in this race, especially on the entrance often in some of these corners. We can hear Chris Warner as he got into the turn 8 there in the braking zone. He hit the wall a little bit. I'm not sure if that upset the car a little bit enough to get that understeer into the tire barrier, but definitely getting on the margins, as we see here with Pedersen as well. One of the key factors for having a good race or a potential race win. But that being said, though, Hasse, this isn't. I mean, it's a very different track from some of the other venues we've been at so far, but you don't drive it any different. Yes, some might be scared from having the wall so close to you, but look at it as a critical off track, if anything. Any good sim racer will be able to find the margins within the track they're racing at, even though it is Long Beach. So this is really going to be showing us, I think, which sim drivers are the most confident so far in this championship.
Yeah, very much so, and the most consistent as well, because you might be able to put together one really quick lap, but as we've also covered upon already in the lead up to this race, mistakes here will be punished, and we have seen mistakes made already here in qualifying as we reach the checkered flag. And with that, Oscar Wilkins does indeed take pole position as we get the grid order up. And let me just Well, actually, I thought the grid order was gonna come, flying onto the screen. It didn't really. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And I'll tell you why. It's because, well, actually, I can't tell you why. So all I can say is that we'll have to wait for a short second. I thought I had the ability to say something clever right there, but it turns out I absolutely didn't. But some beautiful shots here. Look at this Long Beach. The camera work on these new tracks coming onto iRacing, I have to say, is rather excellent. It's providing us with some very, very nice scenery for this race indeed. And speaking of this race, coming into it, we also have a sponsor for this series, and that is, of course, Abruzzi Racewear. You can find a link to their webpage in the description, and of course, the kindest of thanks for sponsoring us for this event and for this venue indeed that this series has been all the way throughout. Now, of course, Abruzzi does provide some of the best racewear out there for sim racing and real life racing alike. If I could just get that sentence out right, it would have been perfect, but maybe just a 9 out of 10 there. Certainly making myself a high praise here. Anyway, we've got the grid order finally on screen, and Oscar Wilkins does indeed take pole ahead of Chris Warner. Michael Pedersen there on row 2 with Sam Baxter and Bot Bolin, joined by Seb Herber on row 3. James Hall leads the bronze class on row 4 ahead of Jeremy de Boer, Paul Gosling and Nelson Inacio. Then Luke Schneider, the German, and Bradley Brockens, and that is, of course, on row 6. And further down, well, there isn't so much more than row 7. It is, of course, Philip Hopley, and if he makes the grid, which I'm not entirely sure, we'll have to see, Sandro Ballesteros. Anyway, interesting race we're in for here. Only 14 cars on the grid tonight, which I have to say, Markus, I do find a little bit of a shame. I see why drivers, perhaps if you don't have the time to really get in the proper practice and everything, it would make sense, but it's still a little bit of a shame to see that we're going to be with a relatively small field for this race here.
There's a proper passing zones on this track as well. Turn 1 is a very, very good spot for passing as well. So I think for some drivers, this could have probably been their best shot at a good finish. I mean, for the drivers showing up today as well, there's a good chance of a good finish with just 14 drivers. But I have to say, James Hall putting it on pole position in bronze in P7 in front of all the silver drivers. I think that's something it's worth mentioning. Leading also the bronze class, and we think he's going to lock that or seize that title up now in this race if it goes well and within his expectations.
So you can see something as well that is a little unusual that has been agreed upon, I think, for the entirety of the field. The side-by-side double file formation isn't going to be taking place until, as you can see here, coming out of the final corner, very gentlemanly, waiting for the entirety of the field to exit as well, because it could be some very, very chaotic scenes that we could be seeing here, but we'll have to go anyway because we'll be at the line now, and those last cars just about making it as we're green here at Long Beach. Of course, 30 minutes of sprint race coming up now. We'll have 45 minutes of feature race to go later on as well, so plenty of racing here as it's as they were for the top 3 into turn 1, and they all come into the fountain. Well, they don't come into the fountain, but they go around it. And to be fair, actually, we have seen cars go into the fountain before. I hope we don't see any of them tonight. But just to round off that little talking point there. James Hall holding on to 7th place. And it seems to me that all walls and the proximity of them taken into consideration, we have had a start, and a clean start indeed, getting everyone safely off the line here.
Good start here on this Long Beach track, 3.1 kilometer long for you Europeans out there. I think we have some miles as well for the ones watching from the States. Almost 2 miles long this track, as we see Oscar Wilkins now leading from pole, exiting turn 9 into turn 10 and 11 now, with Oscar Wilkins behind him. getting a good exit out of the last corner, and now has to defend a little bit from Warner himself. Although I do think that he is more than far enough in front of him in order to not have to protect from a dive bump. This track is very good for passing, though. If you believe in yourself and your abilities, there's some really solid opportunities here.
That is it, and we'll just we'll have to see just how long it takes the drivers to really get into their comfort zones and find the limits of the car on their setup. And 38 degrees centigrade on track temp, so a fairly warm track to deal with as well. That'll not do anything good for the tires. That will be another thing to consider. And I think the tarmac here, street tarmac as it is, usually really takes its toll on the tires as well. So I think we'll see some hefty tire wear. And as such, I also think, as we've seen on several occasions already in this series, that on these tracks where tire degradation is indeed high, we've seen many of the more successful drivers at least taking a careful approach to the early stages of the race and really being able to fire it up later on when they have the tire advantage to really make the difference.
Let's talk a little bit about this driver in shot right now, Michael Pedersen in the 7 car. He had a pretty aggressive season start, made a lot of, or not a lot of mistakes, but he made some significant mistakes early on in the season, learned from that, and carried that momentum into other rounds. One of the rounds that I think about the most is probably the Spa-Francorchamps one we had a few weeks ago, where he got all the way down from reverse grid pole and still won the race. So he won the feature and the sprint race in the same race, Michael Pedersen. And now he's switched the challenging a little bit. He's now going for more of a passive aggressive racing style rather than a more aggressive and outspoken driving style.
And that's very true indeed, and I think it's a good observation there. It's been a season of progress, I think, for Michael Pedersen. A lot of things has been coming right over the course of this season for the Dane, and he's been reaping the fruits of his work as well in that regard. And I think what we're seeing right now is exactly that. He's just keeping steady distance there to Chris Warner, who's battling away with his teammate up ahead. He knows that he doesn't have to pressure any harder than he likes to at this current time.
Car in the wall there in the background. Blue car.
Yeah, that's true indeed. Let's just see if we can catch
40.
a glimpse. There it is. There it is.
40.
Jeremy de Boer, I'm afraid, who's had a little bit of contact there with the wall. And it's not even letting us see it there because there isn't any off tracks to really give us... so unless a car comes to a complete halt, we can hardly even... or of course, unless an overtake takes place, we won't be able to pull up any images of exactly what is going on. And that's sometimes, I think, a little bit of a shame, but we'll have to do our best with what we're given here. And Jeremy de Boer is going to be suffering with that little bit of a hit to the soft barrier, certainly enough to cause damage to the car. Luke Schneider for Holy Cow Racing NBC looked to have a little bit of a twitchy internet connection, I'm afraid.
If there's someone we can look at, though, I think in my event viewer, I'm seeing a crash with Philip Hopley here at 205.
Yeah, but that was just as the green flag dropped, and I don't think that was necessarily a crash as much as Philip Hopley just coming to a halt as they were all snaking through that final hairpin.
Right, so replays is going to be hard for us to get out to the public. We'll try and catch up to what happens on the track and catch it on whenever it happens.
Yeah, very much so. So, at the moment, leading is Oscar Wilkins, still second, Chris Warner, still third, Michael Pedersen. 2 cars for SimRacingLove.com Volante Racing within the top 3. A single of the Fury Sim Sports car on the podium at the moment. The second one of them that is racing tonight here, the one of Sam Baxter, knocking on the steps of the podium indeed, but with company from Bud Boland as well. James Hall looking in a very, very comfortable position at the moment, it seems. He's keeping up more or less with the field behind him. Oh, Luke Schneider. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just his blinking I know that the internet connectivity issues sometimes hit drivers, and that's the way it looks in iRacing. If things are a little unstable, the car seems to blink in and out of existence, and it's when you see that, Markus, from with the car in front of you especially, but the car behind you as well, it can be very off-putted, can it?
Oh yeah, this is where mental training really comes in handy with the simulator. It's an issue you will never have in real life, as we see Luke Schneider hit the wall a little bit on the exit there, a little bit too shallow in the entry. But it's a problem which never occurs in real life. If it would, I think I would have had an epileptic seizure. But you see this car blinking in and out, and you have to try and think about everything else but that car. You have to drive your own race, your own lines, or else you're going to be... You won't be able to pass him, basically.
This frantic stuff, Paul Gosling on the tail of Luke Schneider, trying to find a way through, but he's not really making it happen. Luke Schneider very efficient there. A little bit of a moment for Paul Gosling as he loses time, and he might get company in from behind there. That's Nelson Ignacio, who's a little too far back to be able to make anything happen there. The gap is extending up ahead here for Oscar Wilkins. It's round about a second. Michael Pedersen, about 2 seconds off of Chris Warner there in second, so everything slowly but surely stretching out, and these two at the moment, that's of course Sam Baxter and Bud Boland, and the battle for fourth place coming through the final corner is the closest two cars on track at the moment, and we'll just follow them duly as it is and see what comes of this fight. We still haven't really seen anyone really go for anything. It's been a little bit cagey, which of course is understandable as well. This could indeed be many of the drivers' first race here on the sim.
Definitely a track which is a little bit scary for beginners with these walls. As we have Philip Hupp again in picture, as something happens to him, and this is a classic braking too hard with ABS in a GT3 car at iRacing. Basically just not getting the speed down at all. Braking way too late here, Jeremy the Boover as well, and take out too much of your tires. This has happened to quite a few drivers so far.
Well, they say good thing comes in packets of 3, and it's just how things seems to be right now for us, because we've had a trinity of drivers just seeming to outbrake themselves ever so slightly, and of course there is no runoff, or there actually is a bit of runoff, but it's not the sort of runoff that you usually think of when you think runoff. It's the sort of runoff that you have to go down, turn the car around 180 degrees and then come back onto the track. It takes a long time indeed. And indeed, with the traction control that these cars have as well, it can actually be rather hard to get it to rotate on a plate, as we say, at least in Danish. Maybe in Norwegian as well. Look at this now here, Paul Gosling getting close to Nelson Ignacio. And I think Ignacio's actually gotten past on Paul Gosling, and Paul Gosling's trying to come back for it here for turn 1, and it's not happening. Let's see.
Oh, he's trying the outside. Maybe? No? Jeremy again.
This is not the pictures we were looking for. These are the pictures we were looking for. Oh, look at that, Paul Gosling. So that is the explanation as to how Paul Gosling lost that position. It could have been much more lost actually, but and the Boover hits the wall as well. He's had a problem, I'm afraid, because the Boover is all the way down. Oh, that's the I'm getting a little confused here. I'm sorry, because we're of course following the battle between Paul Gosling and Nelson Ignacio before. Just cut over to we're in the first casualty of the race, I'm afraid.
That's a casualty.
And he gets a little bit of a push as well there, and I don't think Nelson Ignacio is going to be all too happy about what just happened there. Let's have another look here, Markus. Talk us through what happened.
Fish hooked that rear spoiler, leaving the accident scene here, Paul Gosling, but Nelson Ignacio getting in that tire barrier for a little second, and Paul Gosling not seeing where his trajectory is. He's not able to predict where he's going to be at, because he probably thinks he's not going to hit the wall, and ends up then driving right into the back end of our Portuguese friend. But I want to go back again to what you said about the traction control on this car and trying to turn this car on a dime when you get still, because that's it's hard for some people maybe to get their head around how the traction control system works in this car, which is why I'm at the button to my steering wheel, which just turns off traction control whenever that happens. Clutch in, full throttle, kick the clutch, and then you'll have the car turn around in a second.
Pro tips from Markus Gjesdal indeed here. Sandro Ballesteros getting passed on a very stricken Jeremy de Boever, who's losing a lot of time at the moment. He'll be caught by Philip Hopley, I think, in not too long, if things continue the way they look at the moment. Look at this, that's half a second. I've never seen half a second look like that little, to be honest. That's a very short distance to be half a second separating two cars. And of course, Sam Baxter doing a very good job here of keeping Bud Boland at bay and making sure that Bud Boland doesn't really have anywhere to go and any place to get a run. It seems to me that Bud Boland could maybe be running a little bit of a higher downforce setting, because it seems to me he has the potential to maybe be faster, but he doesn't really have the potential to get that overtake done. And when you don't have the top speed to do it, it can be very, very hard having to set it up, everything and every bit of it, through the corners, and you have to take all these risks. And well, it's not always optimal. We'll have to see just how the race pans out. This is the battle for the lead, by the way. The leading gent is the car ahead. That's Oscar Wilkins. Here's Chris Warner in second, and completing the simracinglove.com Volante Racing sandwich. The beautiful blue sandwich, as Carsten so correctly called it in chat, is of course Michael Pedersen, our championship leader. Still status quo within the top 7 of the race, Marcus. We haven't seen a single position change so far.
But look at Bob Boland here. He is a little bit faster than the car in front of him, Sam Baxter in the 58. But I think he hit it right on the spot when he talked about lap times here and the potential for Bud. Maybe he's running a little bit more aero than Sam Baxter is doing, and it shows in the lap times where he has a much better first and second sector, and now I think we're going to get a pass, maybe. Pretty very close.
Very close indeed. Bud Boland getting racier and racier here, and certainly looking like he wants to get a move done and get past on Sam Baxter. And you want to be mindful of his tires as well, and this is what you want to be. You don't want to get carried away too much trying to race. You want to be a little more precise, maybe is the word to use, and almost clipping the soft barrier there on the outside as well. Try and really line the move up and get it done when the chance arises. But of course, stressing the car in front is a viable tactic indeed on a track like this. But at the moment, Sam Baxter seems to be holding up just fine here.
These drivers are driving a bit more like bankers right now. Give and take here, both of them putting mistakes in deposits here and then returning it immediately. So the advantage that Bod had now in the start of this last lap, he lost immediately with this miss in the latter stages of this lap that we were watching now. So very, very back and forth often in street courses like this, where you see yourself getting closer to the wall and you get scared a little bit, and you might maybe go off a little more than you would do on a more traditional track.
That is a good point indeed. We're watching Jeremy de Boever, a stricken machine, and just coming to thought, that's Philip Hopley. I think he was just a little bit faster on his last lap. Not a lot, and certainly not enough to be able to really catch up, I'm afraid, to Jeremy de Boever. You can see how much he's losing down the straight here to Sandro Ballesteros up ahead. I think something has happened here that's slowed down Bud Boland, and
he's been in the wall a little bit there.
Yeah, I think he's been in the wall, and I think, is that car crabbing? It certainly is. That car looks to me as if it's most certainly crabbing. That is not the natural behavior of the M4.
Can't get it turned either at all.
And I don't have any pointers as to just what happened to Bud Boland. But you know, it's very much, if you have to push the limits at this track, this is what I think Bud Boland has found out as well. You have to know which walls you can hit and which walls you cannot, because if you make contact with the wrong wall here, that's of course, especially counting for the raw concrete barriers, which I suspect has been the case for Bud Boland, to cause so much damage, or it's been a hard hit indeed. Anywho. Anyway, it's going to be a very, very tough race to survive here for Bud the rest of the way through.
I think he might have hit this wall here on the exit, as we see now. This is the only left-hander on this circuit, which you get that close to the wall. And he's gone into the wall hard, Bud Boland. The entire rear end of this car is hanging loose. They're struggling to keep it on set. And I think this is going to open up chances for our German colleague here, Hasse.
Do you reckon the damage is at the right front or the right rear here? Because it's definitely the right side of the car that's taken damage. But it seems to me he's taken a hit at the front, and it could be, but he's taken a hit at the rear as well. So it could be both, actually, and that's maybe the reason that he's seemingly so affected by it. He seems to have a very hard time getting the exit and into the pits he comes as well, realizing that he's probably not going to be able to do much with that car anyways. Just over halfway through the sprint race here. And it's going to be an uphill struggle, I'm afraid, for Bud Boland if we don't have any fast repairs for the sprint race.
I think that's the rear end with the way the car was crabbing under acceleration and braking. It looks like a rear toe link that probably got bent after the contact with the outside wall of 6 and 7. Because I don't think he hit any other cars there in that part of the track at this time. We're only 13 drivers now with one other retirement. I think we're just down to 12 cars. Easy maths there. Should make a rap song about that. As we go back again to Sam Baxter now in P4. Who is without any pressure from anyone else behind him. James Hall being the next closest car with 6 seconds back.
And there's Seb Haber in between, and then James Hall. It's that way around. James Hall up into 6th place here, and I say 6th like that because he was looking to get a little close here, but of course that is the mark of having done your practice here and having figured out just where you can go close and where you can't. And there are places where you certainly want to push the limits every time around, and then some places of the track where you do want to leave it that little bit extra space, as you can see here through that final corner. James Hall not really taking any risks. Now I don't know which of the drivers are running specific kind of screen setup, but of course a single monitor setup, unless it's a super ultra wide or something like something like that. Well, it's going to be very hard to actually see the apex of the corner as you're coming through, and as such, leaving just that tiny bit of extra space does make sense, because otherwise it is very, very easy to hit it in there as well. And better safe than sorry, at least if you want to see the checkered flag. And with that said, Markus, 20 minutes gone, 10 minutes left now of this race, and we've got some sizable differences between the drivers basically throughout the field here.
It's fun to see the bronze drivers doing as well as they've been doing this race now, with them pretty much switching out the silvers for this race. I think this is the first time that's happened, where you have the majority of bronze drivers up in the top positions here. And correct me if I'm wrong, Hasse, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, that we will have Sandra Ballesteros in provisional pole right now for race number 2. If it's P10, that's reverse versus P8. I think it's from 10, and I think that's Sandra Ballesteros that looking at pole for this next race we're doing now, just a few minutes away.
Indeed, very much so. Finishing 10th would indeed put him on pole position. But what I'm looking at here is also a couple of battles that are now coming together here at a relatively late stage here. Only 10 minutes to decide this one. Paul Gosling seems to be going a little quicker than Luke Schneider. I think all of these cars are stricken in one way or the other. Look at the pace difference here for Luke Schneider. Finds Paul Gosling to be very, very close to his rear end, very quickly indeed. And with that pace, I think Paul Gosling's gonna have an easy time getting past both Luke Schneider and Bradley Brock, who's up ahead. as well, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. One thing is catching up, another thing is indeed getting past, but these three are indeed close enough that we can call it a battle. 3 cars within a shot, and that came from absolutely nowhere. I was looking down. Oh, there's been contact there with the inside wall. And thinking of it, Markus, do you think it could have been the case for Bart Bolan as well? That it might have been the inside wall on one of the right-handers that he's hit, or would that have looked different on the car in your opinion?
I think he hit the outside of turn 7. It's the only left-hander, and he had damage on this right side. So I think he maybe got a bit too wide here on the exit of 6, and then hit the wall on the entrance of 7. So, anyways, he had to pull out, as he said himself, quote Bob the Cap, which is Bob Bolan from this race, and he did that because he felt he was a danger to other drivers. We still have this fight here for P7 now. So Luke Schneider and Paul Gosling being the closest pair on track at the moment. And Paul Gosling, I think this is not the race he was expecting. I feel like he has a case of a little bit of overdriving his car right now, trying to push a little bit more out of his tires and his chassis than they can deliver to him, which is why we've seen him have some of the issues with oversteering and understeering, and also not getting the car slowed down all the time. So if he can get that settle up a little bit more in the feature race, I think he could be in for a very good feature race.
Hopefully so. Hopefully so indeed. He'll have a good starting position nonetheless. It'll be interesting to see what kind of race we're gonna have for the feature race, because we're bound to have overtaking. We're bound to have a little more racing going on. I wonder, Luke Schneider, he's gonna pop back into existence there indeed. And I was just wondering whether whether Paul Gosling had actually gone through. What it seems to me to be happening is, except for, of course, for the connectivity issues of Luke Schneider here, that I hope it's not going to be terminal before the end of the race. I am crossing my fingers actively as we find something else to watch.
We got another comment here from Bud. He hit the outside wall, which then threw me back into the wall and caused all sorts of damage. So I think he's been playing ping pong more than he's been playing iRacing for this race, hitting every wall on the track for his incident. So hopefully he'll have a much better race in the future if he starts there. Hopefully we'll see him there with the series lowest car count.
Indeed, it's still gonna be very much in with a shot. Just looking at good pace here by Bolan. We haven't really been looking much at Oscar Wilkins, which is a bit of a shame because he's driven a brilliant race so far, just keeping Chris Warner at bay. I think he's driven a measured, controlled effort here, basically just setting the pace of the race for everyone else to follow. Nobody's been able to do that, but he's kept it well within his limits, well within the limits of cars, tires, everything. The machine has been working for him. Fingers crossed, of course, we still got another 5 minute, another 5 minutes to race before the checkered flag does come out for this sprint race. And when it does, mind you, of course, we'll have a short chat with the race winner, and then we'll be having to do a switch of lobbies, which means we'll go on a little bit of a touch of the wall there for the H-card, almost getting into the way of Oscar Wilkins. He has to take a late dive to the outside. Of course, Philip Hopley just wanting to get out of the way. You understand that sometimes as a overtaking driver, you've got your mind made up on wanting to kind of to do the overtake, and sometimes it's like that feeling when you're coming up towards someone on the sidewalk and you go right and they go left, and you know what kind of tango that comes into. Anyways,
Paul Gosling has made it past Luke Schneider now for 8th, so something has happened there.
Luke Schneider, Paul Gosling, let's see, could it have been that, or Luke Schneider's had a crash here, I'm afraid. So just what has happened, I cannot see. I just cannot see. Philip Hopley, I'm afraid, has had a problem as well. Here as he meets the outside wall. The tires there. Was that was Michael Patterson indeed coming through. But we couldn't recall the pictures there of the issues suffered by Luke Schneider from before. And let's see if I can even find him out there. He is out there, but he's blinking, and it's even worse than before. Look at Paul Gosling, though. He's really closed the gap to Bradley Brocky's quite quickly. Oh, Paul Gosling has had some kind of contact again, I think. That car looks a little more stricken than what it did to be before, but I'm sorry that I cannot find the overtake, and particularly what happened to Luke Schneider as well. Let's see if Paul Gosling is going to be able to find a way through on Bradley Brocky's, and scoping through the field. I think there's going to be much else to fight for. Gaps are not huge, but they are there, and certainly substantial enough that it's going to be very, very hard to do anything about in the last, well, 2 and a bit minutes here, as Paul Gosling does see himself with a very good shot, and he almost flips the inside. The question if he actually did so, I'm not quite sure, but it doesn't look like he has the run to me. It seems like he's really losing time here on the straight, and you have to wonder, Markus, do you reckon if he gets past and having to come up towards the finish line is quite a long run down there with that speed advantage, do you reckon that the Brockies would be able to actually get past if he gets a decent run from the final hairpin?
Maybe. I think we'll have to see. Paul is looking so much better in all of the corners on this track, except for the last corner. You can see it as well, shallowing his entrance so much, and then almost hitting the inside wall, and then almost hitting the outside wall. And with these cars, for some reason, you barely turn on this, on this circuit configuration. So if Paul can get past him anywhere else on the track, Brad could look to have some sort of return on him coming down to the first corner if he can keep his distance close enough to Paul Gosling in the 42 car.
Of course, first of all, Bradley Brockies would like to just keep his place in the first place, I think, and not have to do the comeback at all. And if the E-Team Brit Junior driver can actually get to do so, well, I think he'll take that option indeed.
Oh, this looks better, doesn't it, Hasse?
Yeah, it does indeed. But let's see how that car works, because that's what I've been thinking as well before. Paul Gosling looked quicker through the corners, but I don't think he's really gaining here. I think he's actually losing time in the slipstream to the car ahead.
Yeah, got a full sanity in some sort of corner here in order to get that last position. Lost speed there. I think that's a very, very good point from you, Hasse. With the front splitter damage that he has, he hasn't got the same top speed as the car in front of him, so it makes it really hard. But he has more speed in this part of the track in the first 10 corners, but in the latter stages of this circuit, he's just not able to get close enough and pull a pass up in T1.
You can see it in all these
Again, look at this. Look at
Bit
this.
of a mistake.
I think it's passed as well here, maybe. We'll see. 2 wide going into turn 8 here.
Parked on the outside, but this time with a very good run and a very close proximity. Let's see if he can get the move done here, Paul Gosling. He's hardly having a look here, Markus, because he just can't get close enough here now into the final sector. He'll have to make the move here. I think this will be the...
He might fire one on the inside. He might fire one on the inside. Let's see. No, waiting one more lap here. I think this is going to be his final attempt. Bad exit there from the 105 car. So this is heating up for one of the best battles so far in this race. Bradley Brooke is now trying to hold off the 42 of Paul Gosling, as we see Oscar Wilkins now routing the final corners of this race in order to take one of his few victories in this series. I think maybe this first even as well. I might be corrected there.
He has indeed had a race win, but just a single one. So a second win of the season here for the 33 car of Oscar Wilkins, SimRacingLove.com. Avalante Racing looking strong as ever here. Chris Warner gets second, and Michael Pedersen in the 7 machine completes the podium. Indeed, here as Sam Baxter gets fourth. And now let's get our eyes back on this battle here.
Oh,
Bradley Brockins still got Paul Gosling for company. He's trying to defend himself, but they're closer than close, and you can feel that Bradley's really under pressure now. So close indeed. But will Paul Gosling get past? I'm not quite sure. I don't think so, Markus. I just don't feel that he's got the car for it here.
We'll see. He got one more attempt now, and that's turn 11. Fire one up on the inside there. He can push him wide. We'll see if he does that. Nope. Races him clean. If he can get that more shallow. Oh, this is going to be a drag race maybe. Nope. A little bit too far away there. So this is Bradley Brock is then finishing P7, second in class in bronze as well. Paul Gosling doing everything he can to get that position checked.
What a brilliant race indeed here, Luke Schneider, who gets 9th in the end. Ballesteros 10th, and final car to finish the race here. 4 cars not making it. And what we have to follow now is a 45-minute feature race, but also featuring a pit stop and, crucially I think for a lot of the drivers here as well, a fast repair as well. So we'll just have to see how that plays out indeed. And with that said, Markus, let's see if we can recall the race results here on our screen. Indeed we can, and it is Oscar Wilkins, as mentioned, winning the sprint race ahead of Chris Warner, Michael Pedersen, Sam Baxter, and Seb Hebra, rounding off the top 5. First of the bronze drivers, James Hall, ahead of second of the bronze drivers, strangely enough. That's Bradley Brockets. But then the silver winner is Paul Gosling there, 8th overall. That means he's, of course, going to be 3rd on the grid for the feature race. Then Luke Schneider, Sandra Ballesteros, De Boer, Hopley, Boland, and Ignacio, I'm afraid, did not make it all the way to the line. So quite a bit of attrition. And with that said, Markus, we have a couple of teammates ready to come in and have a chat to you here. Both of them, they're both on the podium. They're both driving for simracinglove.com Volante Racing. It's Oscar Wilkins and Michael Pedersen.
So we have 3 Scandinavians in here right now with Hasse and myself, and also joined by Michael Pedersen and Dutch driver Oscar Wilkins. And you guys, you love being in the waiting room. I always seem to find you there every weekend. But I won 3 in the first race, and take us through the team strategy and your personal strategy for how you want to succeed at Long Beach.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, just fire, one of you fire away.
I feel like we did good prep for this race. We had our teammate helping out, but yeah, we were doing a lot of setup work this weekend because IMSA Long Beach is not the most popular track, so it was a good opportunity to do some practice laps and official sessions and get some work done this weekend. And I think that really worked out because we really got into the flow. Yeah, it's a shame we were not 1-2, so we could put away with the slipstream. But Chris was really fast today as well.
It's also low car count, if I can continue a little bit with you, Oscar. 14 cars only on this track, and you're starting P10 now. And what do you think the next race is going to look like for you, coming from all the way in the back? Is it going to be cool and collected, or are you going to go full attack?
To be honest, we'll have to wait and see, because this track is not really a great track for overtaking. Considering we're in the same car, it will be really difficult. So it will be doing an overtake will be a little bit a hit or miss, I think. It will be quite risky. There's a few places on track to do it, but every time there will be a chance of contact, so you have to be really careful doing it. Maybe you have to do something with the pit stop strategy to avoid all the mess, I think.
Moving over to the next simracingloft.com Volante Racing driver, Michael Pedersen in P3, and again, very, very strong showing here on the podium for, I think this is the third week in a row. Maybe I'm mistaken there, and maybe it's more, but you're leading the championship. Make no mistake, I know that, I see the numbers. Pedersen, P3 in the sprint race. You also had good success now, starting all the way in the back in the feature races, but this track, as your teammate Oscar mentioned a little bit, it's a hard hit and miss kind of place to overtake. So what do you think about your expectations here, and what do you think your race is going to look like?
Yeah, as you mentioned, you've seen the numbers as well, and I know what position that I'm in the championship, and that's definitely going to be a key factor for this feature race. I'm not going to try to do some hero moves that might put me in the wall. I've consolidated a few points to Chris this race, which was a bit frustrating because I didn't really feel like I had much pace compared to my teammate and him. But yeah, this feature race is gonna be. It can either be really clean, or the exact opposite. Given the low car count, cars that might perhaps would have been finished a bit lower than all of them find themselves in pole position. So that's of course something that both Oscar and I know that we really have to take into account when trying to overtake these guys. And yeah, in general, I'm definitely gonna be more on the conservative side this time. Try not to throw away any unnecessary points, that's for sure.
Looking at your car as well now, I noticed gold rims. Is that a sign for things to come?
I mean, so far it's unlucky because it's one of the worst races that not the worst, but one of the worst races that I've had so far. So that might be a curse of trying to change things up. But yeah, I'm gonna try to find some analysis as soon as possible to see where I was lacking pace, that's for sure, and try to solve this problem.
I'd like to thank our two Volante racing drivers here, sponsored by Sim Racing Loft, for the short interview, and I'd also like to give you guys an opportunity to give a quick shout out to whomever you'd like. We can start in one end, so that will be you, Oscar.
Yeah, so I'll start. Yeah, so I would like to thank both Michael and the team for doing a good job, a great job. Working together, it's a great joy. For Sim Racing Loft to sponsor our entry into the series, really check them out, really cool guys. And I hope to see you guys again or talk to you in after the feature race.
Thank you to Oscar Wilkins, then P1 winner of race number 1. Moving over then to his teammate Michael Pedersen. Is there anyone you'd like to give a short shout out to?
Well, not to sound repetitive, but of course I would also like to thank team and sponsor Volante and Sim Racing Loft. And I've of course gotta grab the opportunity to be a bit more selfish. I would love to have some guys come check out my Instagram at MIP Racing. So yeah, again, as Oscar said, I hope to see you guys as well here in an hour's time or so.
Thank you so much, Michael Pedersen, and masse lycka till in the second round.
So that was, yeah, indeed.
I have to say, Hasse,
Sorry,
the
Markus.
confidence in these drivers, it's okay. The confidence in these drivers, I didn't feel the same confidence from them in the first opening rounds of this championship, but now it's through the roof, and I love it.
Very much so. It's impressive to see, and it also makes very, very good sense seeing just how they're behaving themselves on track at these very times. As we're just joining in to the second race lobby, we're gonna crank up the music and leave you for just a few minutes. You can always, take advantage of this break and do whatever you need. Quick snack break, a little bit of a drink, maybe a check to our sponsor's website or whatever. Feel free to do any of the above mentioned things or many others out there, but make sure that you return shortly again for the feature race. I shall leave you with a cranked up music, and we'll see you shortly indeed. Hello everybody, welcome back. And as I'll just have to quieten what's going on there, to not deafen myself completely. Live pictures coming back up here for the feature race indeed. We've got 45 minutes of racing. At the 12-minute mark here, the session will be forwarded, so we got 6 minutes until we get action underway, and I think we're gonna be in for the treat of the night here, seeing as we're gonna have a reverse order of the top 10 starting out there, and that's really gonna throw everything up and about, and we're bound to see some action that we didn't really see in the first race. Not to say it was dull, but it seemed that the qualifying pace of the drivers was translating very, very well to race pace, pretty much for everyone. Of course, the few unlucky souls there, but more or less everyone making it safely through, Markus.
Yeah, that is correct. As I'm just getting a quick sip of water there. Luke Schneider in the 150, as we see in the picture, he still has some problems with his connection. But for this race, I have high expectations here. Having the entire top 10 reversed with only 14 drivers, I think we're going to get a hoot of a race. Good opportunities from everyone, I think, on every part of the grid. And I think this is the first time we'll see some actual passing opportunities or having passes on the track. It was kind of... we lacked a little bit of that action from this year's or from the last race, which we've been accustomed to in previous rounds. I think this is not at all advertising for what this league actually is. So if you find this race a little on the flip side, I think you should tune back in again in 2 weeks' time when we finish off the championship at Catalonia. And
it's not only Catalonia, it's the historic layout, which means we have the good old fast final sector where you could actually overtake, and a few other oddities you could say carved off of the track. Yeah, there's going to be a penalty as well, I think, for Nelson Ignacio. Not that it's really going to matter too much. But yeah, indeed, as you can see, he pulls over to the right, and he will have to reset here. Chris Warner is having done a very good lap lead, 119.15. Sorry, Markus.
I'm sorry for just jumping in there, but I think that's a good example of what we could probably look at a problem for today. That cone in the end there, you mentioned it off the broadcast a little bit before it went live. It's really, really hard to get right. And when you get in there, your mind thinks that you have to brake as late as you can. And maybe sometimes you think you have to turn earlier than you actually can. So that could be catastrophical for some drivers today.
That could be a disaster waiting to happen indeed. Just having to see how that's going to be playing out in the end. I think it's better to make the mistake now and figure out that you have to wait until it feels very late to turn out of the pits there, than to make it while you're racing. And of course, it's a relatively simple entry to the pit lane, and it looks benign as well, the exit, but it certainly is deceptive, I'd say. Deceptive, the word. Sandro Ballesteros getting in a good lap time as well, just kissing the wall there on the exit. Not enough to really harm the car, but certainly playing along the fine lines there, the limits, as they're also known, and the E-Brit drivers. Oh, a little bit of oversteer there on corner exit. He's certainly attacking it, but I think he will indeed be in pole position as well, as we're approaching the 2-minute warning for the session to be forward and the race to go ahead.
Looking forward for this one. And also another thing for new viewers who haven't tuned into the first race, the start here is a little different from what we've seen before, and I think maybe you could do a quick recap on that, Hasse.
Yeah, indeed, we have just a little bit of a difference. It's not much, but it certainly does ease the start procedure here at Long Beach. It's that the 2x2 double file formation that we always see for starts in pretty much every series in iRacing that has a flying start is It's going to be a later setup for that than what we usually have. So cars stay single file until they exit that final hairpin. And then we'll see them go double file. And then if the start is going to be as it was for the sprint race indeed, expect them to not really go before they get to the line there. But it was a very clean start indeed for the sprint race, and that was very nice to see, because it's not an easy turn one to get around a lot of cars. That 90-degree left-hander really often inspires people to go for something that isn't quite possible indeed. Jeremy de Boever hoping for better luck here in the feature race for himself. As I see the interview button is still up. I'm sorry about that. Of course, we're not having interviews at the moment. I'll have to take that on my cape.
So this is a bit of a funny thing that I learned from my karting days, or I still kart, but one of the first things that people told me was everything except for the final is practice. That includes the first heats of the race. And I think that's maybe a little bit where Jeremy de Boever is at the moment, having practice in the first race of this Wednesday, blowing past his braking zones a little bit. He surely knows his margins a lot better now.
Indeed, but he'll have an uphill struggle, I'm afraid, coming from the depths of the field. Or am I being mistaken here? I could actually be mistaken here, and and we're looking at the car who's going to be starting in second place or something like that, which is of course a very good position. Sorry to cut you off.
It's all right.
But the session indeed did just tick over, and here we see just how the well, that doesn't really make sense to me. I think last time it did this as well, so I'm just gonna recall this and then recall this, and hopefully this time this time it's right. Sandro Ballesteros ahead of Luke Schneider, Paul Gosling, then Bradley Brockes and James Hall in 5th place. Seb Herbera will be starting in 6th ahead of Sam Baxter. Michael Pedersen 8th place for him. Chris Warner in 9th, and winner of the sprint race heat there, Oscar Wilkins, starting 10th. Then Jeremy de Boever. So I was right, he was going to be starting from the heavy end, if you will, of the field in 11th place there, ahead of Philip Hopley. And then that final row of drivers will be Bud Boland and Nelson Ignacio.
Starting from 11th though, uphill struggle, which you mentioned, but in order to finish first you have to finish. So I think there's going to be good opportunities from Jeremy if he just keeps his head cool and tries to keep the car on the track, except for into the walls. So really excited to see the start here now with the new pole sitter for the first time in the season. Sandro Ballesteros then leading the field up to the line for his first time. In the ETM Brit Junior category, one of the few drivers here in that team today, as we see them now pulling up into the exit here and going immediately here, Sandro, I think. Not waiting for the field to collect at all.
No, and side by side more or less with a blinking Luke Schneider, who's on the, well, what will become the outside, but I think he's actually ahead, the German here. And it's very difficult to call when you can't see him, but he is well ahead here.
That's sketchy. Moving on the side, the past line of where a blinking car is.
Yeah.
Getting into the second part of this section here, then sorry, Hasse. Chris Warner, Sam Baxter, and our previous race heroes, they're still hanging strong in their starting positions here. Sam Baxter in P7 now, challenging Seb Herbert for 6th, as we have Bradley Brockes and James Hall as well in 4th and 5th. James Hall making a move there, and Bradley Brockes up into 4th, as we still follow this fight here for the P5, and I think we have a car in the wall here a little bit.
Something's happened up ahead. Someone touched something, that is for sure, but nothing's come to a complete stop. And we'll just have to be mindful of the fact that someone is probably running with damage up ahead here, as we see moves are, if not being made, then at least very much thought about here in the early stages of this feature race, and it's very much a snake of cars. There's another contact here up ahead. Oh, and this could very much come to a stop here, more or less, but everyone is still snaking their way through that final hairpin. What a corner that is indeed here. Chris Warner, Oscar Wilkins still haven't been able to really make up positions here, but Michael Pedersen getting closer and closer to the rear end of Sam Baxter. Mind you, he's also still very close to the rear end of Seb Herbera. The gold drivers, are seemingly biding their time. And up ahead, the bronze drivers are looking relatively good for themselves here. Oh, as they get close indeed into the fountain they go. And Michael Pedersen has had contact with the car ahead. Look at that. You can see it on his nose. It's had in light, but it is there. It's had a little bit of a punch in there. Oh, and a big slide up ahead.
Big slide.
Huge moment for the Fury car, and I think that's going to be Michael Pedersen past here. He's certainly got the run on the outside. Braking late, both of them mirrors side by side. How it's going to go?
He's going to get the inside in the next corner in turn 8. Contact on the front end and the rear end on this car, the 7 car.
So,
there's a touch again.
Rubbing is racing here. This is like touring car racing, and this is all going to be helping Oscar Wilkinson behind as he comes with a fresh car. He's going to make it 3 wide here. He does go for the inside.
3 wide in turn 9.
Just how they made that round there, I have no clue really. But now Michael Pedersen, I'm afraid, is in a spot of bother here as Oscar Wilkins goes for the outside. He might just block him off. And he cuts him
teammate.
off. And it's
Coming from the guy who said he wanted to be conservative in the last race. 3 wide into turn 9. This is absolute madness.
Now look at this. This is a long section that we'll see, but it's a worthy replay to watch here. Pedersen there and Sam Baxter, I think that is, side by side. First of all, almost gets it. Pedersen wants to... I'm sorry?
Warner is past Michael as well, and they're fighting very hard for positions live right now. I don't know if you can just jump right into that fight. We can see them now, 2 wide with Oscar Wilkins here, and I think Warner is eyeing his opportunities.
Yeah, indeed. We're going to have that final bit of a watch at just what happened here as...
the switchback.
Oh my word! Brilliant move there from Michael Pedersen to actually get past on Chris Warner. Now Warner very close again to the rear end of... Oh, somebody's made contact with something there. We hear that crunching sound. We don't see it, and it just bodes ill indeed when you hear that sound. Often though at these street circuits, it's not necessarily as race ending as you might expect it to be, but what a fiery opening 4 minutes we've had of this race so far. It's been absolutely hefty indeed, and the race is settling up ahead. At least Luke Schneider's got a comfortable advantage here from Paul Gosling, then James Hall Ballesteros in 4th place at the moment, and then Bradley Brockis. Seb Herbera, who's also now closing in, and here comes the dive, or he's at least thinking about it, but he has to think twice. I think Seb Herbera there, as he's trying to move up through the order of bronze drivers, currently leading the pack here, Markus.
What a race we're looking at right now. This is completely different from the sprint race earlier today. These 3 here, I think they're going to be in for a show this entire 45 minutes. The way these guys are racing now in the opening 4 laps, I think that's a good sign for things to come, especially for us looking. I think there's a manager in their commentating field who is a little bit nervous now, seeing how much plate contact we see between the cars, and also the aggression from the Fury drives and the Volante drives here in this track.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of nail biting going on here and there. Look at this now. Sam Baxter is on the outside of Bradley Brockis, and he makes it through. Beautiful move indeed to move himself up into 6th place. Now he's falling into the clutches of Michael Pedersen and company, and yet another situation of almost coming into a standstill there in the hairpin. But they...
See what happened with Bradley there. He took the corner a little slower than Michael Pedersen expected, and Chris Warner and Oscar Wilkins as well came in there with a head full of steam. They both expected that corner to be as fast as it's been every single lap they've been passing there. But they didn't take into accommodation that Bradley Brockis was in front of them in the hairpin. So they almost rear-ended each other, every one of them.
Yeah, indeed. And it just goes to show margins are tiny here at Long Beach.
4 p.m. rush traffic today.
Very much so. It's indeed... it's funny how you said it's opposite of the sprint race here, but so is the grid order. So a lot of drivers having to make their way up through the traffic now, as you could say, but it's not traffic. It's actually racing for position. And these drivers, the bronze drivers who started up ahead, they have every right to try to defend. And look at this now, Bradley Brockis is taking his right to defend from Michael Pedersen. Pedersen having to go the long way around there on the outside, which I think he's gonna do. There's another curve there for Bradley Brockis, and Michael Pedersen gets it done. at the very same place that Sam Baxter did it just a few laps ago. Michael Pedersen, a little bit of a contact there behind.
That's the contact we spoke about a lap ago. Same thing happened between Brockis and Warner. I think that shows Bradley that he can go a lot faster through that hairpin. It also slows the guys down a little bit, and it's a good move that you can do in real life racing sometimes, where you go into a corner and then you wait and you wait and you wait until you get on the throttle, and it'll scare the driver behind you who probably doesn't expect it, and suddenly you're slowing down. You can get a huge gap on the straightaways for doing that.
Yeah, it's a good old trick, and parking people on the apex is usually how it's referred to. It's often rather not so well liked by the drivers on the receiving end of such tricks.
You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, trying to keep position. And I understand Bradley Brockis as well, coming from where he started and what he wants to achieve here. Definitely something. Coming from a manager's standpoint, no, you shouldn't do this. You should focus on your own race. But watching this as a spectator, I think it just gives us more racing. And also, look at the deposit from Michael Pedersen now, making a huge leap in front of Chris Warner and Oscar Wilkins.
And Pedersen trying to keep up there with Sam Baxter, but I think he might just have taken a bit of damage. Oh, would that be a poor exit this time around? Actually, no. Actually, no. Brockis gets a good run here, and it's going to be hard for Chris Warner, I think, to make up ground, at least enough ground to be able to make the attack into turn 1. But Brockis going a little bit defensive. I think that might actually hurt him here. I don't think he needed to do that, but wanting to cover off the Fury Sim Sports driver, the 75 car here and behind us, we're riding on board this opening section of the track. So hectic, as she seemed to be throwing the car left, right, and center all the way around here. That little bit of a ledge that you jump up to there, that really offsets the car as well. We've seen so many oversteer moments just coming through that particular corner, and the exit of it, of course, in particular.
This is something that I tend to see from Chris Warner right now in this stage of the race. He can't get the pass quite moving, and starts losing. Oh yeah, he's very, very close. But I think that Warner's frustration level is kind of building up a little bit right now, and makes it hard for him to try and get past these drivers. And now Oscar as well on the inside here of turn 9, getting very racy with the 75, coming into the last few corners of this track. And also another car was signed on for this challenge, is the car of Bob Boland, the number 13. The 113, I mean, which is also challenging in the slipstream here, as we see a still shot of Luke Schneider, who's completely gone.
But has he dropped out? I'm afraid that it's been the end of Luke Schneider's connection. It could hop back in, but that is a very, very long timeout. And I'm afraid we've seen the end of Luke Schneider's race.
He's still in the session, but his ping is at over 2,000, so I think this is, server fault.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll see him anymore.
Probably going to be it. So that's usually at least what happens when we do this kind of ping. That's because connection has gone entirely. Oh, and just as I say that, prophecies are made to be broken. I was just about to say, and commentaries are here just so we can be wrong. Luke Schneider still leading the race, but with this connection at the moment.
Warner and Wilkins, Warner and Wilkins, they're going at it, and Wilkins is actually behind Boland right now, so stuff is happening there in the back.
Oh! So that's...
Rocky is acting like a clogging the system a little bit. Sorry for interrupting you there, Hasse, but this fight is getting really, really feisty right now. And Chris, he has to get past here. He needs to get the points in order to have a chance in Catalonia 2 weeks ahead of time.
Yeah, very much so. It just doesn't really look like happening at the moment, does it? This time, though, into turn 1, Brocky's defensive again.
On the outside here, though.
He's overshot
he doesn't. No, it's always in the wall, I think.
I don't think he's in the wall. I just think he went straight on. Yeah, he's reversing.
Oh, this is heartbreak from Warner then.
So here we have it, Chris Warner. He figures out well in advance and just goes straight ahead.
I have to give it to Chris Warner though, because he's been eyeing up the the car of Bradley Brock is a long time now, as well as Oscar Wilkins has made it past, I think, the 105. But Chris Warner, who we see in here, overshoot his braking spot by a state and a half. He's been eyeing up the car in front of him a while, the 105, and he has better braking performance. I think he knew that as well. Pulling out everything from that car trying to get past, as well as seeing some contact here in the background. And that's Pedersen, and Rømer is in the wall.
Excuse me for my loudness here, my expressions, but what just happened there? They just seem to make contact, and they pick up and totally spin around Sepp Herber. Look at that, the clock's up.
Wilkins as well, past there.
Everybody else gets past. Oh, and Herber is on the receiving end.
This has completely reset the fight with Warner and Pedersen. Completely. They're both together with each other right now, and they're both the same drivers that are challenging for the overall victory.
That is incredible. Now, we're gonna have another look at this situation. This is not the situation. I think it comes up here. Yeah. Says there was they were going very hard at it side by side. I don't know who initiated that contact, but very clear to me that they couldn't really slow down in time. Herber minding his own there. He was going for the early entrance. Certainly those two drivers were having other ideas, and let's say their plans collided for a moment there, and well, that's how it goes.
While we were watching that incident unfold, in the background before we saw that unfold, for everyone who wants to go and look at that on the YouTube broadcast, you can see it in the background in the entrance of turn 9. There's some small contact between the 58 and the 7 car. Maybe that also led up into that main contact that we saw with these two. And we have a new race leader.
Yeah, we've had major problems for Luke Schneider. Yet again, I cannot recall whatever has happened to him, but he's lost 6 places and finds himself in 7th now. And that means this time around, it's James Hall now leading, who's gotten passed on Paul Gosling. So whatever happens there, it's been very, very close indeed. And I'm just trying to figure it out, really. But there's been a lot of stuff happening in quite a short amount of time here. And down behind, I think that's Oscar Wilkins having a look there. He's trying to sell in the dummy, and here it goes up the inside.
Oh, it puts him in the wall.
A little bit of pushy action there, and he gets it done there, Oscar Wilkins. That was rough and tough indeed, and getting the jump. Oh, he touched it.
So that's gonna change everything then, or is it? They're still sitting 4th and 5th there. And you see a little small contact that Oscar made to the 58, and then immediately returning that to the wall in the next braking zone. Let's see if we can follow this replay for a little while here as they come back down into turn 9. The 58 tries to hang on the outside, but it looks like the 33 still has that better run. So this concludes this fight for now, but I think these two are still going to be feisty unless Wilkins pulls out that pace that he had in the first race. And 15 minutes in now, Hasse, we're looking at getting ready for our first pit stop. And this first corner right here, you can see the blue line and then you can see the red line. That could be crucial for some drivers, trying to not cut that too early and get a penalty from iRacing.
Indeed, and that is what you want to avoid at all costs here. Look at James Hall now leading from Paul Gosling, then Sandro Ballesteros, Oscar Wilkins having made it up to 4th, Sam Baxter 5th, then Bradley Brock and Spot Boland, Luke Schneider, Michael Pedersen, and Chris Warner still going at it here. Still now with Michael Pedersen ahead. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of damage these cars have taken. We're just about a third of the way through this race. Mind you, not too far away from the opening up the real pit stop window as well. Here's Bradley Brockis is looking to defend from Bot Boland, but I don't think that's an easy task necessarily because he's touched the wall. Boland sneaks through on the outside there. Actually, it's skillfully done from Bot Boland just to avoid making contact whatsoever.
There's contact in every wall in this track.
That's
I think.
Michael
There we
Pedersen
go.
going into
Dan
the pits.
Baxter. I'm sorry, Chris Warner and Pedersen. Yeah, going into the pits here. doing an undercut strategy on the rest of the field.
And I think
Early
it
for
might
these
have.
two.
I think it might have more to do with the fact that they actually can come in now, just about half an hour rest or
Yeah.
left of the race. So the pit window is actually open now. They have damage. They want to get that fast repair done. They want to get that damage fixed and get out there so they don't lose any more time than absolutely necessarily. I think that is the main strategy going on for those two drivers pitting that early in the race here. Brockies is having his hands full, and Luke Schneider certainly has taken a hit to the rear of his car there.
The two rivals here actually parking up right behind each other as well, so that's going to be a fun fight to watch out for. And here we see it both going down into the first lane. Let's see how this looks now coming out of the pits here. The 7 leading the 75. These two have been racing so hard for it, and that's an early exit from Michael Pedersen, it looks like, but maybe just enough to avoid a penalty.
I'm sorry to cut you off there, Markus. I'm just going to say you would expect these two drivers to have done their homework on this pit exit. And surely if any of themselves, or any of these two drivers pick up a penalty for themselves, they're going to be kicking themselves for making such a mistake. And it could provide to be a decisive one should it happen that way. Of course, they're going for the undercut. Oh, something's happening to Philip Hopley. Oh, and Michael Pedersen almost gets cuts off on both of them. And I think he's got the meatball.
I was just about to say, I thought I heard a car, and then we see in the inventory as well as Philip Hopley going into the wall. You can see he's had a hard contact earlier. Hits the inside wall. That's maybe what happened to Bob Bolin in the first race, and that's why he had that right side damage. Speculating a little bit into the early race, but that was such a dangerous situation for our leaders, or from our championship leaders there in respective P12 and P13. And look at the decisive maneuver here from Pedersen. He could have easily gone back to the left there. That could have caused an even bigger incident than it already became.
It could have been all over in a very short moment indeed. Well done for not having it so. Look at this. Still James Hall. He's driving a very strong race at the head of affairs, still ahead of Paul Gosling, but Oscar Wilkins is closing in and looking to make it a double up for himself. And it's Ballesteros, Bolin, Schneider, Inacio, De Boever, Hevre, then Sam Baxter. And having to wonder whether Sam Baxter's actually been into the pits. He has not, has he? Oh, he has indeed. He has been in. So Sam Baxter also an early pit stop for him here, yeah.
Yeah, Bradley Brock is out. I wonder what happened to him because he had very, very long pit stop there. Could that be a certain case of remembering to or forgetting to uncheck your tires at a stop? Because he had a full 1 minute and 10 in the pits as compared to his peers in this field, 49 seconds.
Yeah, that's a good point. But the pit stop time, that would be about 17 seconds. So that could indeed be. I'm not quite sure, actually. It's certainly not going to be fuel. Could be a penalty. Could be a 15-second penalty as well. So it's a tough call. But maybe someone can tell us. But let's see what's going on here. Oh, Luke Schneider's had more problems, I'm afraid. And he's now dropping down the order. He's gone and jumped to the pits here. And we'll have another look at just what happened to him. But yet again, it just won't let me show any replays of what's happened to Luke Schneider. So we'll have to live without that. But look at Oscar Wilkins. He's charging up. He was almost a second up on both of the cars ahead of him here on the final lap that they did. And he's closing in rather quickly here. Of course, he has yet to do his pit stop. And that goes for the first 8 drivers on track. And then Philip Hopley included. I'm a little surprised to see that he hasn't come in yet, because that car is not in a good state and he could come in and fuel up to the end of the race. So the car that's crabbing like that, it does not make sense to me to keep it out, but that's just my logic of things here. As you can see, Oscar Wilkins slowly but surely, I say slowly but surely, that's not the correct expression, I'm afraid. Rather quickly is approaching the rear end of Paul Gosling, and Paul Gosling is gonna be feeling the heat now from that engine of Oscar Wilkins. Is very, very close to his bumper, and Oscar Wilkins there, a smart move by himself. He's not gonna waste any time battling away with the cars ahead there. He's gonna take his pit stop that little bit earlier. And I think that could be a race-deciding decision there, man.
It looks like it. Getting that undercut could be crucial. Having to fight with these two guys in the front could lose him a lot of time. So this is probably the best moment for Oscar to pit, having caught the first two cars in our field here. Also, I want to speak a little bit about Philip Hopley, because the way that his car is moving right now, it looks like what you'd get a mechanical black flag for, but for some reason it's still turning laps out here. That could end up being a dangerous part for this field here if they try to get past and end up having a Philip Hopley with loose toe links in the way.
That's a very good point. That's a very, very good point, and it's certainly worth being mindful of that. If you're shown the meatball flag, then you are of course obliged to come in for repairs, be that a fast repair or a
Gosling and Hall is racing really hard right now. They just switch position on our screen here. Something has happened to Ballesteros maybe as well.
So here comes Paul Gosling for the race lead. This is, he gets clipped there. He clips the wall on the outside.
That's the contact we heard as Hall responds immediately, going right into the pits there after that attack.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, there it is.
Back there as well. There's a 6 car again hitting the wall, getting nice out of the way though for the next cars following. Bud Boland and Sandra Ballesteros, respectively 2nd and 3rd. As we go back again to the championship fight here, Chris Warner in the 75 and Michael Pedersen in the 7 for Sim Racing Lawful Lanta Racing. Fury Sim Sport carrying name of Chris Warner in their car right now. I'm wondering where we're going to see the first few drivers here going to go into the pits. Because Oscar has now exited behind Hall, and we might be looking at fighting him. And I think that's a pretty severe difference as well, and it's decreasing rapidly at the moment. So 1.7 now up until James Hall, and he's lost time maybe on that stop. Oscar Wilkins, 51.4 on his stop, 47.5 on Hall's stop. So whatever he did on that undercut, I think he lost every advantage from it.
But looking at it, I think it also could look like James Hall having underfueled a little bit on his stop, maybe at least.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So that time because we've seen that before as well. Yep. That it looks like a delta time gain in the pits, but then you don't really make it to the line and have to do a splash and dash or heavy lift and coasting, which could also turn out make you very, very vulnerable to attacks.
Oh, somebody just hit the wall hard there. That was the car in front, I think, of these two. Yeah, the 150.
Oh, the Boover, I think it is.
Was it him? Maybe it was Luke.
I think the Boover here has taken a hit. That is for sure. Luke Schneider is in the pits.
Oh, look at him sending it over the curb in T1.
Hefty send indeed there from Jeremy the Boover, who's maybe a little bit in frustration after having tapped another wall there on the outside, and looks very similar to the damage he sustained to the car in the sprint race. Now we are into the second half of this feature race. 25 minutes we've been racing. And we've got another 20 minutes of racing to go, and still everything is still to be decided here, Markus. And this, I think, is one of the most open races that we've had this season so far.
This is like seeing a wet weather race in a Formula 1 Grand Prix. This track has absolutely turned the tables, and we see, I think we're going to get a new season winner this season, or this race, I mean. So we see another few cars there, or hearing another few cars there, I'm sorry, hitting the outside wall here, like Jeremy de Boover almost did.
Now, Philip Hopley, by the way, just to cut you off, he is coming into the pits now. He will get his repairs as well. Seb Hebra in for a pit stop all the same.
in the stop. Yeah.
There you can see it. Both of those cars coming in for their pit stops. Just
Completely
mentioned.
new car for the 6.
Now here Oscar Wilkins having caught up to James Hall, and let's just see how long it's going to take the Dutchman to get past here.
This is effectively the race for the win here right now, virtually. James Hall in 6th, and then Oscar Wilkins in 7th here. If they can keep the pace up here, and if Paul Gosling and Bud Bolin doesn't lose too much time on the pit stop, Sander Ballesteros as well included in that, I think this could be the race for the win right now, which we're watching.
Yeah, this is indeed, because they are about, I think they're virtually 10 seconds or so up on Paul Gosling, those two, right
He's
here.
gonna move here on the outside as well. Defending here, James Hall, the bronze leader, actually just letting him through. So that promotes Oscar Wilkins up into 6th place. We'll see how this plays out in the long run here with Gosling, Bolin, and Ballesteros yet to pit. Schneider as well following this group here, a few laps down after some unknown contact. So go switch back again to the 75 and the 7, and these two guys have been running as pros on us. What is it called? Pros on a thread. Good Scandinavian,
as we say.
Good Scandinavian expression right there.
Very much so.
I don't know if that
pearls on
exists in
the string
English.
is very much a thing in English as well, I think.
Right, okay.
So you're not completely off there. but indeed, I think they're taking a very measured approach to this, and it's like they've used some kind of telepathic communication with one another here to just say, okay, listen, mate, if we push too hard here, we're gonna end up behind everyone, basically, because they can so easily throw away a lot of time battling one another. They know that their pace is very, very similar indeed, and I think they want everyone to get that pit round over with and just see where they pop out, and then maybe take the battle up from there over the final couple of laps of the race. They've had their few calamities there as well, so I'm afraid we have another problem here for Philip Hopley.
Oh, brakes way too late here.
Oh, and that is a bump. Yeah, indeed, into the tire barrier at the outside. Is that turn 1? Indeed, it is. And
but if it's time for speculating here, Hasse, sorry for cutting you off here. I'd like to think that Michael Pedersen got a call or maybe a text message here from one of his team managers, Sim Racing Loft Volante Racing, telling him that you remember what he said in the interview, right, in the last race? Conservative measures. Because these guys were going 3 wide into turn 9 just a few laps ago.
Also, that was quite hefty indeed. But of course, that wasn't really on. It seemed, at least to me, that it wasn't the decision of Michael Pedersen to go 3 wide there. It was more the decision of Oscar Wilkins to try and send it all up the inside. So, and it worked out in the end as well, although it was a little rash, you could say. But sometimes those decisions.
There was no contact, and no cars were in the wall and ended up outside of this race. I think that was. I think it was completely in measure, and it really shows what kind of level these drivers are as well.
So, just to recap here, as we have been racing for 30 minutes, we've got another quarter of an hour left to go of this race, and it's Paul Gosling still leading, but now from Bud Bolin, who's closing in. But mind you, none of these drivers have had their pit stops yet. And speaking of pit stops, one of those drivers who yet to pit was Jeremy de Boer coming in. These drivers cannot have fuel for more than a single or 2 more laps here, I'm afraid. So it'll be final pit stops coming through very shortly indeed. We are expecting to see Oscar Wilkins take the race lead, but it's gonna be close. Maybe for James Hall at least, but we'll see where those drivers currently fighting it out for top positions will be coming out of the pits. And then, well, virtually, I would believe that Oscar Wilkins is looking at a double up here. If he can keep it going for another 15 minutes, he's looking strong for it. He is virtually the leader out there at the moment, and certainly also setting the pace. So I wouldn't be surprised, and I certainly wouldn't put it past Oscar to pull off this one as well.
Gosling and Sander Ballesteros still staying out another lap, but Bolin going to the pits earlier than trying to get a small undercut. And I think you're right completely with Oscar Wilkins. He's virtually in the lead right now. The other guy's not matching his pace at all. He's driving, or he's lapping rather, with a much higher pace, almost a second faster than Paul Gosling, Bob Boland, and Nelson Ignacio, which we're following in shot right now. But we have the same fight, which we've been talking about a long time. And early in the race, in race 1, we had a Volante Racing sandwich. Now it's the other way around with Sam Baxter and Chris Warner sandwiching from Fury Simsport here, passing the pitted cars now, Bubble and Sandra Ballesteros. So this is now the fight for 4th or 5th place, as they also pass James Hall. They're coming out late. Oh, very, very oversteer there from Michael Pedersen in the 7th car.
That was Bud Boland they passed coming through, so that was actually an important fight for position in the gold class there. Bud Boland almost making it, but you can see how it's been efficient there for Michael Pedersen and for Chris Warner as well, getting the damage fixed, getting that early pit stop sorted, and not being too caught up in the dealings of everybody else. Now this is the battle, I think, virtually for what would end up being 3rd place on track, which is rather impressive here as we're on board with Sam Baxter on his bumper, if you will. Looking back on Michael Pedersen, and of course behind the Dane is lurking in his shadows, is very much so Chris Warner. We could see some action heating up from this trio, which very much actually turning into a quartet there. Close indeed from Michael Pedersen, but you can see the car of Bud Boland joining in as well. And up ahead, they're all catching up to James Hall. You can see his car right ahead of these. And mind you, James Hall has had his pit stop. I think everyone's been in the pits now. And Oscar Wilkins indeed leading. And look at Paul Gosling coming out the pits. That's going to be very close indeed. Oh, Gosling's going to slide in between there. Is he?
Oh, there's some contact there as well between the 58 and the 7, I think. And then Gosling then sliding right in front of Warner. And Warner does not have any luck at all in this race.
That was very close indeed. Not a lot of space to race on there. And it seems Chris Warner.
Michael very close.
Yes, indeed. Michael Pedersen is knocking on the rear end of Sam Baxter, not making any real moves yet. I think the contact could actually have come from Chris Warner. I'm not quite sure, but the front end there does look like it have a little bit of a knock to me, and that of course has happened after that pit stop indeed. But let's see here, we've got just over 10 minutes of the racing left to do here, Markus, and it's all heating up, battles for important positions, and it's all across the field basically. It's gonna be a right-on show all the way to the checkered flag.
Oscar Wilkins promised us another podium interview, and he's looking very, very good right now. We could get the same duo into the podium interview in just a few minutes' time, as we see Sam Baxter and Michael Pedersen now heating up. And we know these two have history from this race already, with the small contact entering the hairpin a few laps ago before the pit stop. But you're completely right, Hasse. It's all or nothing now for these guys.
But I want to touch upon something, because it's rather impressive to see over the last lap, James Hall only lost a 1/10 of a second down to the duo in behind here. And if they keep on this kind of pace, they're not even going to catch up to him. James Hall driving, of course, in the bronze class, really mixing up with the heavy hitters of the series at the moment, and doing a pretty good job of it all the way through here for the E-Team Brit. I'm sorry, and it's brilliant to see when we got these underdogs.
Oh, there he goes! There's the 7.
That's a late send. Oh, the stop isn't gonna work. That's a slight touch. He's got the good run. He's gonna get the pressure here, all the way down towards the next one here. Michael Pedersen, I think he's got the position as well, because there was a little bit of touch to the wall in squeezing the Fury car to the outside as well. Michael Pedersen gains position. That came from out of nowhere, Markus.
Wanted no repeat of what we saw earlier in the hairpin there, Pedersen, sending it super late. This is what we'd say is too late, but he forces the 58 off the line a little bit there, hits a tire on the exit, and that completely upsets the 58. He surprises us, I think, and has to give up that spot a little bit or not just a little bit, completely. Sam Baxter then down into 4th, as we see another fight here for position with Warner and our previous race leader Gosling, and Warner's still up here and unscrewing the bumpers of the cars in front of him this entire race.
Yeah, he's not had any luck with him really this time around. Chris Warner, you said it before, and I'm just going to repeat the fact that he has been on the receiving end. Every time there's been a sort of a marginal situation, he's come out behind several cars. And he's
same move here that Michael Pedersen did just a lap ago. Late send from the 7. No,
he's
more
too far back.
conservative here. But he has to think about these points now because Pedersen keeps climbing in the standings for this race. So he cannot afford having a retirement. He needs to get in here and get good points. Taking the time and using patience, I think that's going to be the key now for trying to not let that gap get too big for these two. Because we do have one more race to go at Catalonia in 2 weeks' time, and he's within range. So perfect race weekends only now for the 75, and I think he could still be in a shot here for winning the title.
And that would also require Michael Pedersen to retire from both remaining races, more or less. So
both of them need to have good races here in order to actually have anything for the championship. I think it's going to be between these two anyways, but we saw it happen earlier in this race where Pedersen had a huge run and disappeared from Warner at all. And then we have this contact between the 58 and himself, and suddenly they're right neck on neck with each other. So problem-free Wednesday, 2 weeks from now, I think that could really settle up who's going to get the win or not. But right now, I think the odds are in favor of Pedersen.
Good point. Good point. And the 79-point advantage that he carries is at the in the standings at the moment. I'm sorry, he's certainly talking to the favor of Michael Pedersen as well. Now, this battle seems to be heating up. Chris Warner, is he going to be looking at the scent here at Paul Gosling? No, he is not, but I would expect that sometime very soon indeed. Because they've got Bart Boland in there as well, and can't discount him from making a move as well. Of course, the Manxman, who... the Manx Missile, of course, very much a different character. Mark Cavendish, the cyclist, having won 3 days on the trot in the Tour of Turkey. To any cycling interested out there, a well-known figure in the world of cycling, former world champion, of course. That was a world championship claim in my home country of Denmark, actually, on a route that I've ridden on a strong number of occasions myself, but he's won 3 days in a row. Of course, a Manxman as well, just that what threw me onto that. And you sound like you have a point. The point could very well be James Hall now getting company, we could say, from behind, from Michael Pedersen. Do you reckon he's going to have a chance of holding off Pedersen for 5 minutes here?
No. Well, I think this is going to be... I think, here you go. I think this is looking very good for a podium position anyways from James Hall, and probably his best race so far this season. Also, speaking of good races, I think this is going to be the best race of Oscar Wilkins, as we have another attempted pass here. 75 and the 42. The 42 not getting the inside for the next few corners, but the 75 hanging tight on the outside, getting the dirt a little bit, getting the inside, and then Bob Ball as well, helping him through the corner. And actually putting him in the wall a little bit there. Chris Warner says, "Thank you so much. The beer will be on me in the bar."
That was an incredible move there. I was really, really great overtake from Chris Warner through 3 corners. You see, wants to set it up, hanging on through that double left-hander, and then really making it last and making it count. And indeed a little bit of a helping hand there, but you just see there isn't really much more they can do. They need a little bit more turning input, which they cannot get in the turning circle when going slowly on these race cars is indeed huge, which is what we get to see an example of when they have to round that final hairpin.
That demoted Paul Gosling down into 7th, so he's falling short on places right now. Had a very good opening stint there, but couldn't really keep that pace up for the remainder of the race. Another driver, though, that we can speak very well about, the 68, was now having to look a little bit in his mirrors, as we have Sam Baxter with almost the same identical number, just the 58, 10 numbers off. In 4th, looking up to podium position, but we're getting very short on time now. 41 minutes out of 45 minutes raced. And looking at this finish, I think this could be our final standing, unless we have anything happening with the leaders or podium finishers.
Oh, we've had a problem there for Nelson Ignacio, and he's not the only one, I'm afraid. But Luke Schneider, that's the same case as always. It seems that we're not able to really... Oh, here's a bit of a picture of what happened to Luke. He's across the track at what seems to be a... Well, that's the... Well, that's the... Oh, that's one of the runoff sections there. So he's been on a little bit of an excursion there, maybe a shopping trip.
Yeah, it looked like it. It looked like he waited for the green light there in the intersection.
Very much so here. Now, Oscar Wilkins, what a double race it's been for him. Sprint and feature. Well, lights to flag in the sprint race, and barring any solo mistakes, which I really don't think we're going to see from this man tonight, he's taken it from 10th to 1st. And he's looking to win it in a very, very dominant fashion as well. He's got a 10 plus seconds of an advantage down to Michael Pedersen. It's 11.6 seconds to be precise down to his teammate. That is a huge advantage. Of course, Pedersen did get past there on James Hall. And you know what? Over the last few laps here, James Hall has been extending the gap down to Sam Baxter, and is looking to consolidate third place here. Another mistake, I think, there from Baxter. He loses another few tenths here, and just sees James Hall disappearing out in the distance here.
Very, very good execution from James Hall now in the ending minutes of this race. Everything that could, or the only things that we have a little bit of an off here from the 105 here, Sandro or Bradley Brookis, I'm sorry. The only thing that could, there's a car in the wall there as well a little bit. Is that the 105 or is that the 68, I think, on the exit of turn 8? Giving the wall a little bit of an extra coat of blue and white.
The question is that the exit, or did he touch it on the inside? Because I think that looks a little bit to me like it could be both, actually. I think both sides might have caught a little bit of crumbling there. He's certainly lost time. He's lost about half a second down to Sam Baxter, and we'll have to see if he continues to bleed as they increase the speed here. But you know what? We're also coming into the final minute of racing, which means this is it going to be the final lap? I'm not quite sure, actually. We might get another one, because it all depends on whether Oscar Wilkins gets another one or not. And to be frank, I don't really know if he's gonna get round in another 40 seconds from here. But we are...
Looks like the race finish here, so I think we're on the last lap from this race.
Well, he couldn't just slow down if he doesn't want to do another lap and wait up for Michael Pedersen, just do a photo finish here. They're in that good of a position. James Hall certainly looking to be slowing down ever so slightly. Sam Baxter just about a second back. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Oh, here it is. Markus, 10 seconds. Is he going to make that all the way to the line?
That's another lap, I think.
There's the line.
That's the white flag. That's the white flag. So one more lap of racing here for these guys. And James Hall, I think he's feeling the pressure of getting his first podium position here in the overall standings, not just in class. So the flagman showing us the white flag. Oscar Wilkins just on a Sunday cruise right now in the first place. All the way from 10th place at Long Beach, Hasse, which is a remarkable presentation.
It's a really, really, really good race, and it's a brilliant performance indeed. Really showing that here at Long Beach, no one has been able to touch... Oh, look at that! James Hall gets a little bit of a helping hand from his teammate, and he's still not let him through!
That's Brookis, I think, the 105.
And no doubt about it, Sam Baxter is going to be absolutely fuming about this. He'll be furious in his car. He'll be thinking... Certainly he could have done something about that. Certainly he could have caught him. Now there's not a single chance that is going to happen. But Oscar Wilkins, it's been 2 Brilliant races indeed, and I think he's actually managed to finish them both without really picking up a scratch in the car, and he's crossing the line here with the checkered flag to pick up race win 2 of 2. And what a display here at Long Beach. He takes the win, and this time around it is that 1-2 for SimRacingLove.com Volante Racing, as Michael Pedersen extends his championship lead. And James Hall, the bronze driver, gets a podium place for tonight. What a beautiful race it's been for him as well. The two Fury cars, 4th and 5th in the end here. Yeah, sorry, Markus, go on.
And surely that will secure him the win as well in class, getting 80 points now to his name. I think that's looking very, very good for the finishing result now. The car of James Hall then having 300 points to his name from having won several races in this season. Dirk Reske, which is the next car in line with 206. I think that's it. I think that's the bronze fight sorted out then for this season. We could see some protests and drop wigs play in, but I think this is more or less the 68 cars win here. So one winner already in this series now, as we are waiting the last weekend in 2 weeks at Catalonia.
And look at this, a photo opportunity here for the E-Team Brit cars as well. Good looking, and a photo opportunity as well for SimRacingLove.com Volante Racing with another 1-2, and really stamping their authority onto this series in this latter part of affairs. That much very, very sure indeed. And as we get the results up, confirmation Oscar Wilkins picks up another win here in the feature race ahead of Michael Pedersen. A 1-2, as I said just a minute ago, for SimRacingLove.com Volante Racing. It's James Hall, the bronze driver for E-Team Brit, in 3rd. And then Sam Baxter and Chris Warner for Fury Sim Sports 4th and 5th, ahead of Bud Boland for Sim Racers World Esports in 6th place. 7th, and leading silver was Paul Gosling for Quantum, ahead of Seb Herbra. Then Sandra Ballesteros 9th, and Jeremy de Boever for Sim Racing Team Clodebal in 10th place. In 11th, Nelson Inacio. 12th, Bradley Brockis. Luke Schneider was 13th, and in 14th place, the unlucky soul, in terms of this race at least, of Philip Hopley.
What a race that was, Hasse, with a bronze driver on the podium as well. I just can't wait until iRacing adds wet weather to this simulator. I think that could really spice things up even more. And it shows that different and weird racing tracks often do change things from the regular. We've seen international circuits now, every race so far, which have permanent sections on the track. And now a complete difference with this street circuit at Long Beach.
Good point. Good point. It's going to be... nothing will ever be the same again, Markus. As I'm just trying to see if I can catch a bit of a replay of the race start. Here it is. It was mostly actually in terms of getting pictures for our interviews, and there are indeed interviewees waiting. And Markus, first off, we're gonna take our 3rd place finisher and bronze rated driver, best result of any bronze driver so far this season. It's James R. Hall.
You're probably smiling from ear to ear so far, James Hall. What a race, mate! All the way from the back of the field in the first race of this Wednesday, and then also getting that reverse difference in the second race, and now on the podium as the first bronze driver this season. And what does that feel like for you?
Yeah, thank you. I'm tired, to be honest. It was. You don't get a rest around Long Beach. That's what makes it unique and beautiful. It's just, yeah. I don't know what to say. Yeah, that was a mad one. That really was.
You did have some company in the end of that race with Sam Baxter, but it looked like you had one of your junior drivers there really had an immaculate time there, getting a little caught up in the battle. Can you take us through what it was like for you in the finishing minutes of this race?
I'd watched Sam catch me up after the pit stop, and it was like, it was looking a bit touch and go. But Bradley had an incident out the back with Luke, who was blipping in and out everywhere, and came through that he got some, I don't know what you would call it, I'll just say lag crash, and it put him in the wall, and Bradley was like, right, I know I'm behind you, and it's like, okay, thanks, don't really want you there, but thanks.
We could also see you early on after the pit stop that you let Oscar Wilkins by, or was that strategy? Did you mean to let him by, or was that something that you couldn't challenge him into the next braking zone?
I know Michael and I know Oscar are really phenomenal drivers, and I didn't want to have an incident because I'm trying to win the bronze, and I was just like no. And then the times they were catching me, it was just let them go. And I know I'm not one of the best, but it's just safer to let them go, and then I can build myself a gap and manage the track and the traffic like that.
A good executed race from you, James Hall, ending up on the podium in the 68. I think this is the first podium as well for you in the overall standings. Quite a different turnout here from what we've seen usually with over 20 drivers, but 14 drivers is very good for a compact track like this. Anyways, in 2 weeks' time, we are finishing up the season at Circuit de Barcelona, which is a very iconic track for motorsport fans. And can you tell us a little bit what you think your shots are going to be like in that track?
It's about speed, and especially with the very long start-finish straight. That's going to be a good braking zone battle into turn 1 and turn 2. It's just going to be a case of maintain the speed and think of the bigger picture at the end of the day.
Sounds like a good plan for you, James Hall. And I think, without saying this for too sure, I think maybe right now you've been able to secure the title for bronze overall. We will have to wait to see for protest and eventual formalities being discussed in the aftermath of this race. Anyways, congratulations so much on 3rd place there, James. And if there's anything you'd like to, or anyone you'd like to shout out, now is the time.
I just want to thank and shout out everybody at E-Team Brit and Team Brit. We've been doing phenomenal work this past winter learning the BMW, and it's proving that we spent Christmas well. But yeah, just everybody at Team Brit and E-Team Brit, thank you very, very much.
So that's
Thank
James.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was going to say, yeah, just thank you to you guys as well, because I go back and I watch the race, and your commentary is phenomenal, and I really enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you so much to James Hall, then finishing P3 and 1st place in bronze. Have a good rest of your Wednesday and good rest of your week, and we'll see you later.
Yeah.
Oh, just cut him off there a little bit too short. Sorry about that, James.
Well, we'll be moving on swiftly, indeed, to the next step on the podium. You are indeed here again, Michael. Welcome to
Thank you.
Another time indeed, and a hectic race, to say the very least. It seemed to be one of the hardest races to cause, actually, that we've had this season. Looking at it halfway through, and yet it was Oscar and you on top again as the checkered flag was dropped. Did you have a feeling that you would be 1-2 again for this race, or was it a little bit of a surprise for you as well?
I mean, I honestly have no idea how I got here. This was after my failed attempt at trying to pass Sam, which ended up in him hitting Sebastian Herbera at the hairpin. I thought, well, that's race over for me. Now I'm gonna fight for race over. I might finish like P5 or something like that, but no, to get into this position is really awesome. I really didn't expect Chris to come in the same time as I did, which I think might have been my saving grace for this position. But no, I'm totally stoked for Oscar to get the clean sweep with a pole and race wins in race 1 and 2. That's just so awesome.
Indeed, and coming into this 2 weeks now from the final 2 races of the season, and a healthy advantage in the standings down to Chris Warner that was built upon tonight as well. Michael, you must be feeling confident that that the title is very much within your grasp here.
I mean, I'm certainly aware that I'm gonna come into Barcelona as the favorite to get it, but I mean, I don't think the lead is over more than one race, so I can still have one bad race where I might get taken out, or I make a mistake and take myself out and stuff, and then I'm gonna be on the back foot again. So, I mean, I'm certainly sitting as a points favorite at the moment, but yeah, there's still all to play for at the end. But I'm definitely not gonna throw it away easily, that's for sure.
We're looking forward to it. That is for sure, Michael, 2 weeks from now. And before we let you off the hook here, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout out to, as per procedure here on Simracersworld TV?
To sound like a broken record, I'd like to thank my team, Volante Racing, as well as our sponsor for this championship, Simracing Loft. And I would highly recommend everybody to go check out their content on both their Instagrams and their websites.
Well, there you have it. Beautiful Michael Pedersen, and a little bit of a internet connection glitch, audio glitch there. Just as you mentioned, you wanted to, or you didn't want to sound like a broken record, and then like, and that was just poetic. Thank you, Michael, for joining us, and we'll be dragging in your teammate right about now to have a chat with Markus as well.
Thank you very much.
Oscar keeping his promises true here with the confidence going into round 2. You promised us a podium interview, and here you still are. But I did not expect you to get a P1. Talk us through how you managed to get that P1 in the feature race.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a bit surprising for me as well to get the P1. I was hoping for podium, but this is really cherry on the cake. But yeah, I was trying a bit with something I said in the interview earlier. I was trying something with the strategy because I had the feeling that it was going to be difficult to pass on this track, where you could see in the beginning we got stuck behind the guys. Then yeah, when Chris outbraked himself, I didn't wait, and I just made the move immediately. Then I had a gap to increase the pace a bit. As soon as I got close to the first 4 guys, I tried to do the undercut, and I think that worked out really nicely. And yeah, also James did really well. Want to congratulate him. But yeah.
We don't have too much time, but there's a few things I want to touch on here before we finish off, Oscar. Before the start of race 2, Michael Pedersen, he said he wanted to have a conservative race. You heard it. You were in here as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem a lot conservative going 3 wide into turn 9. So just talk us through that fight for a little second.
I mean, when we went 3 wide.
Yeah, when you went 3 wide.
To be honest, I had a better exit coming out of, I guess, turn 8. And I don't know what was going. I don't know, but I felt like he left the door open. So I had the confidence that I could brake later. Which so I made the move when we went 3 wide through turn 9. I think it went just okay, but then I had to give up the position again because I ran out of space for the next 10 or 11.
Little contact there between the 7 and the 75 actually as we get it on the replay. But anyways, thank you so much, Oscar. And right before we shuck you into the waiting room again, is there anyone you'd like to give a quick shout out to?
Yeah, to Michael, I'm really happy to see him when he showed up behind me on the relative. And well, of course my team, Volante Racing and Simracing Loft, for showing this entry. And also again for James doing a really good job. Thanks for letting us by. That really helped us to get 1-2 today.
Congratulations on P1 2 times in a row this Wednesday, and we hope you have a good rest of your Wednesday and good luck for the rest of the future.
Thanks guys, see you in 2 weeks time.
So that is one of the more interesting races, to say the least, on this in this series, but still it still keeps surprising me with these drivers, how they manage to get through it, especially these top drivers, how they get from a very bad finishing position in race 1 or maybe a reverse grid and still end up on the podium. I don't get it.
No, indeed, but the cream will always rise to the top, Markus. We've seen it countless times before, and I am quite sure that we will see it many times again. Talent and skill just has a way of showing itself, and sim racing as well as real racing as well, especially these one make series. There's just no hiding whatsoever, and I think this is much, if not the reason, then at least one of the reasons that we're seeing these types of performances. Ladies and gents, this has been a great evening of racing, especially the feature race here tonight was indeed the feature of the night. What a great race we've been treated with indeed, and thinking. And we had a full field of 25 to 30 cars, and not, and say quotation marks, just 14. It could have been absolute fireworks, but it was great nonetheless. From both Markus and I, thanks so much for joining us here for this evening's worth of racing here on Simracersworld TV. Whether you've been joining us on YouTube, on Facebook, or on our Twitch channel, maybe even. But nonetheless, do leave us a like, a subscription if you want to see more is recommended. And with that said, we will be returning in 2 weeks for the season finale from Catalonia. And I'm just gonna click open because I have to be honest, we've got so much on display by now here on Simracersworld TV. I cannot remember what is happening, and especially when. So I'm just gonna look it up here, and I can see that we have the SRW Annual Invitational tomorrow. We have the Dynamics Endurance Series with 12 hours of racing from Daytona here this very Saturday. We have the Porsche Cup GB coming up next Wednesday. The SRW F3 Series next Thursday. As you can see, there is a lot of stuff happening on the channel. There is racing for more or less every taste, so certainly something for everyone to catch up on here. With that said, my name is Hasse Rømer. It's been a pleasure having you all along. I've been joined by Markus Gjesdal, and as I said, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time here for the season finale. Until then, take care, have fun, and bye-bye.